Man, we getting down to the wire here, Cavs fans. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mack, and tonight our Cleveland Cavaliers did battle with the Indiana Pacers for the fourth and possibly, I don't know, it's a question mark next to that, possibly the final time this season. And I say possibly because the Eastern Conference playoff picture is fucked right now. It's pretty damn crazy. Several teams are still jockeying for position, including our own Cleveland Cavaliers, right? They came into tonight at 47 and 33 and currently positioned at third in the Eastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken, the third or fourth in the Eastern Conference. And they're just so much wiggle room. There's so much wiggle room to be had for this team, really honestly, for the top couple of spots in the Eastern Conference. Actually, yeah, they're sitting at fourth in the Eastern Conference right now, right behind the New York Knicks at 48 and 32. So there is not a lot of separation at all. There's not a lot of separation at all in regards to these teams. And so matchups are going to be decided over this weekend. Basically, that's what it boils down to. This last game against Charlotte could very well prove to be a vital matchup in regards to seeding. And that is not something that I thought I would find myself. I thought that was going to be the case, but here we are. But with tonight's victory, the Cavaliers have at the very least, clinched a playoff spot. You absolutely love to see that happen after such just an up and down season, right? This has often felt like 3 or 4 different seasons in one, just because they've dealt with so much adversity, whether it be injuries, whether it be a tough schedule, lineup inconsistencies, poor coaching decisions at times, just any number of things that this Cavs team has had to deal with throughout this year. And just to sit here and to watch them clinch a playoff spot and I believe a top 5 spot in the postseason, it's good. And this game, obviously, we're gonna dig right into it. But man, it was a nail biter down to the last couple of possessions. Honestly, we can get to the obvious part of this, right? The obvious part is that the Cavs had a shot to tie the season series at 2-2. We all know they lost the first 2 matchups, but with a victory tonight, they would be winners of the last 2. And thank God that happened. That's the obvious part. The part that we really, really were interested in prior to tonight's game was that this is basically a glorified playoff game, right? High stakes in regards to the seeding in the East. And that's essentially a sentiment that was shared by the players as well. It's not just us. Jarrett Allen himself was quoted as saying prior to tonight's game, I feel like we have to treat this next game like a playoff game. They're in seedings where it will very well could be a playoff game. So we have to lock it in before the game, make sure that we get our film, take care of our bodies through all of that. Jarrett Allen, funny enough, was out there just absolutely balling and playing like this was playoff basketball and like he was out to prove a point. And again, a win tonight not only tied the season series, but it gave them the head-to-head tiebreaker, if I'm not mistaken, by virtue of divisional win percentage. And again, they clinched the playoff berth, ending any speculation on the idea of them potentially falling to a play-in spot after such just an up and down season. Now, as for the game itself, like I said, Jarrett Allen, he was phenomenal. We're going to go down these performances, but the arena, just from the tip, it seemed electric as hell. Just energy was up from the jump, right? That clearly the players knew what was at stake here, and I knew this team would lock in, guys. I just knew it. And how fitting that Jarrett Allen gave that pregame quote, because that dude, along with his front court running mate Evan Mobley, at least to begin the game, were aggressive and attacked the painted area from the tip-off. From Jarrett Allen mid-range floaters and put back jams to driving layups and big-to-big passing by Evan Mobley, the big men appeared to be on a mission from the beginning to shut shit down. Right? They were carrying at first, especially in that first half. Jarrett Allen in particular was just so damn impactful throughout. My guy had 9.7 boards and 2 assists in the first quarter, not the first half, the first quarter alone. He just kept that intensity up all night long. And so I love to see it. And speaking of intensity, one of the players who just always seems to play with an intensity out there is that of George Niang, who is a former Indiana Pacer. I believe the Pacers drafted him, right? The man at least in my eyes, has quickly endeared himself to me. He's become one of my favorite Cavs. And yes, he was on the show. That plays a little bit of a part in it, but his play this season, just kind of the toughness and the grittiness that he brings to the table. I honestly enjoy watching him go out there, even if he's drawing technicals like he did tonight. I believe he earned a double technical along with, I think it was TJ McConnell earlier on. But sometimes you just need that. You need guys to go out there and talk shit, and you're definitely going to need that intensity come the postseason. And look, I get it. Niang can be downright ugly to watch defensively at times, but the floor spacing and intensity he plays with should come in very much in handy during this year's postseason. And he could be pivotal off that bench. I know a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people are just keen on Marcus Morris, right? And, whenever we get Dean Wade back, who knows when that'll be. But I just honestly believe he could be pivotal off the bench just because of his ability to space the floor out of the front court. And he allows JB to run some of those lineups that we love, whether it be Donovan Mitchell running the point and Jarrett Allen being the lone big out there with Niang at the 4. And we did a lot of that earlier on in the season in lineups with Dean Wade in particular at the 4. And obviously we know what the trade-off there is. Dean is an excellent defender compared to Niang, but Niang, one thing that he can say that that Wade doesn't necessarily do is volume shooting, right? And he does it at a pretty decent clip. Tonight, I thought Niang was definitely critical in part of this win. He just always seems to knock down big time shots. And as TuneIn Sports says down here, Niang will have his moment in the playoffs. I can 100% guarantee you that those same people who were shitting on Niang, the Niang signing prior to the start of the season and at points during the year, when Niang shows up in a playoff game, may not be anything huge. It may not be a huge stat line like he had against Milwaukee earlier this year or something shit like that. But there will be a moment in this postseason where Niang's floor stretching becomes pivotal. It becomes just so damn impactful out there that they will be glad that Niang was signed. And I get it. Some of the lineups that he's out there and just do not favor him. You don't want to see him out there playing the 3. That's not particularly a situation that is going to yield results. You don't want him out there for large stretches against more athletic 4s or anything like that because he can be taken advantage of. But man, that floor spacing ability that he has, it just opens the floor up so much, especially in that front court when working alongside Jarrett Allen or even Evan Mobley for certain stretches. So I like it. And for me, Niang, obviously just 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting. That does not sound spectacular. I get that. But the shot making that he brings to the table, the threat of his perimeter spacing, that's important shit to have. That's important shit to have in the postseason, especially off of your bench. And as Dr. Claw, good to see you down there, man. So glad to see the core 4 shine tonight. And this is the thing, man. I had people at me about Darius Garland in that first half. And look, this motherfucker goes out and drills the biggest shot of the game. Just absolutely shoots that triple that he had up against Pascal Siakam. That right there, that's a playoff moment right there. That's a playoff. And this is basically a fucking playoff game. That was a big time shot. It felt so good to see that go through for him. And by all means, 16 points, 2 boards, 4 assists on a pretty efficient night, from the field, 6 of 11, 4 of 5 from 3-point distance. That's nothing spectacular, but you know what it is it's production that is necessary, right? In a night where clearly he's not as involved, from a shot taking standpoint as you would like him to be, as you would like one of your max guys to be. But man, you know what? I'll take it. It's a step in the right direction. He had 2 back-to-back games recently where he scored 20 plus points and, the shot was falling and people are still, and he stole the ball like over that 2-game stretch. He had 10 steals, but he also had 10 turnovers. And that's the thing. 4 more turnovers tonight for him. And a lot of them are just clumsy turnovers, like dribbling the ball off yourself or just an errant pass. You hate seeing stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if the dude shows up the way that you pay him to, in the moments that you pay him to me, that matters a hell of a lot more. I would rather DG make a game altering shot in the clutch moment than him have a wonderful stat line. That's just me. I don't know what you guys think, but that's just me. I can live with a mediocre stat line provided that he shows up in big moments. And I get during this season he hasn't necessarily done that. He's garnered the reputation of being one of the least clutch players in the NBA. But I'll tell you this, man, it's just a down season for him. And we're saying that, like, we're throwing that rough season, down season moniker on him when, by all accounts, 18 points and about 5, 6 assists. It sounds like a pretty solid season if coming from somebody else than Darius Garland, because we know what Darius Garland is capable of. But obviously, this has been a rough season for him with the jaw injury, various other injuries that he has had to deal with, losing 12 plus pounds and just being in and out of the lineup, missing so much time during the year, and dealing with some general inconsistency. But DG, as Elliot Clausen says down here, DG not turning it over in the final 2 minutes was huge. And that's been the biggest complaint. A lot of times when I come on here during these live podcasts, DG will have at least one big, like, critical turnover down the stretch in the fourth quarter. And it leaves me at a place where I either have to just not say anything about it or try and constantly backpedal and defend it, or just try and, you can't ignore shit like that, obviously. But at the same time, DG has started to up his level of play recently, and although tonight is not going to suggest that he has, he's back or anything like that, but hitting that shot, that's got to be huge for your confidence. And although he did have 4 turnovers on the night, I can look past that because he made up for it. And it's not like this is just some piss poor team, that they could have lost to. This had serious playoff implications. This is a big time game, and that's why I keep saying this is basically a playoff game. And for them to be able to step up the way that they did, I love it, man. And obviously, as Dr. Claus said down there, the 4 shines, right? Led by Donovan Mitchell, who I will say, there was one singular possession in when I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, Donovan? And maybe it was JB's fault for not calling the timeout, but literally, dude had the ball the entire possession. The entire possession. He brought the ball up, kind of looked off Darius Garland. I thought he was going to pass it to him a few times, took it upon himself, ISO'd, and shot a very contested mid-range pull-up. Just not what you wanted to see. But overall, on the night for him, I thought it was a great night. One of his better performances since he's come back. 33 points, 5 assists out there, pretty efficient, 12 of 27 from the field, including 4-10 from 3-point distance, and was a plus 16 on the night. Elliot says, LOL, his knee looked shot after that too. What the fuck was it? I don't know what the hell that was, Elliot. I was looking at that entire possession, and I kind of replayed it in my mind. I'm like, dude, just give the ball to DG. Is it like, were you not trusting DG? Because I think DG had either turned the ball over or had a pretty bad possession prior to that himself. But it wasn't a great possession. But the game in general, yeah. It was BS, man. It really was. And it came at a critical moment. I'm like, Donovan, bro, what are you doing? And it just left me scratching my head. But thankfully it didn't lead anywhere, right? Because the team was able to pull out this victory. And then again, as I always already mentioned, Jarrett Allen was phenomenal tonight. Another double-double for him, 29 points, 14 boards. Very, very efficient, might I add, 13 of 14 from the field. This dude just constantly seemed to make himself impactful in the game, whether it be offensive rebounds, whether it be some DHO work and facilitation out there, getting guys involved via the use of the pick and roll and kind of using his gravity as a vertical spacer out there. Or simply just playing his role to a T, being a good screener. Just a lot of different factors. And on the defensive end, he made a couple of plays out there that we have come to love from him. And this is another big reason why I've always felt that Jarrett Allen should get some love for the all defensive teams this year. I don't see it happening. I hope and wish and prayed that it would, but just with so much defensive talent at that position, I do not see Jarrett Allen making the all defensive team. We'll see, though. I don't know. It's something they could surprise me, but with Anthony Davis and Victor Wembanyama just being phenomenal defenders in their own right, and then Rudy Gobert, obviously, I just don't think there's any room for Jarrett Allen on one of those teams, although I believe that he clearly deserves it. Anisia says, I am so happy that we have had Jarrett Allen as our anchor throughout the season. Dude has quietly been the most consistent Cavalier all year, and I will fight anybody who says that, to the death, who thinks against that. to the death, because he clearly has been, right? In a season that has been marred by injuries and guys have been in and out of the lineup, and Darius Garland has struggled, and Donovan Mitchell has struggled at certain points, and it really everybody up and down the line. Jarrett Allen has been a fixture in this lineup this season. To all the haters that he had after that woeful performance, and admittedly, right, it was a bad postseason showing for him. I think he would be the first person to tell you that, but he has silenced a lot of critics. Now, the narratives that are out there about him, the one that he cannot beat at this point in time is the lights were too bright. That cannot be beaten. That cannot be dispelled until he has a good postseason showing. We hope and pray that that is going to be the case. He has given us every single indication this season that he is going to put that woeful ass performance behind him. And I hope that this play that he has shown us all season long carries right on over into the postseason, because if anybody deserves to have a good playoff run on this team, it's Jarrett Allen. That's me. That's my opinion. But Jarrett Allen, man, he's been the most consistent Cavalier all season long. He's had his stinkers this year in performances where you've been left wondering, man, you could have done a little bit more. You need to be a little bit more aggressive, or you need to lock in like he said he was going to tonight. But more often than not, Jarrett Allen has shown up, and so I'm very, very appreciative of that. Now, you look to some of the other pieces in the lineup tonight. Mack Strus, listen, Mack Strus's stat line is just so damn Mack Strusian, right? 7 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists. That sounds lovely. And I absolutely love the fact that this man led the Cavaliers in assists tonight, because not enough people speak about his playmaking presence out there. Is his work in the DHO with both Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. That was something that was being established at the beginning of the season, watching them operate the pick and roll together, watching them using those dribble handoffs to both of their advantages, and then watching him make that extra pass out there. Just something that constantly occurred tonight. It's a big reason why he finished with 9 assists. But the thing that he was signed for, right? It's nice to get the rebounds out of that small forward position. It's nice to get the assist out of that position. But the thing that he was signed for is to make shots, right? That's why he was given. That's why we acquired him, essentially. He went just 2 of 10 from the field tonight, including 1 of 5 from 3-point distance, and he has not shot the ball particularly well as of late. I hope that is not going to be the case in the playoffs, because we're going to need him. There is going to be at least one game in this, in the first round, or however long the Cavs are able to make it for. There's going to be a performance in which he's the clutch guy out there, and he's making shots and he looks efficient. But as Tuna says down here, he came in clutch towards the end. That he did. And see, that's why I'm not shitting on him for the 2 of 10, because he just adds in so many other areas, whether it be defensively, whether it be as a facilitator, whether it be as a rebounder at the 3, which is something the Cavs clearly need more of. So I can't hate on him for that. I want to see him start to knock down more shots. But that triple that he hit down the stretch and some of the playmaking that he had, very, very vital to this team's success, and his ability to space the floor. And this is the thing, right? We know that gravity and floor spacing is not just exclusive to knocking down shots. It's just being literally a threat, right? Essentially, that's what it boils down to. Obviously, you have to knock down the shots. That is number one, numero uno. But at the same time, just being a mere threat to drop a triple on somebody, to pull up or to catch and shoot, or, out in transition, whatever, what have you, however you're taking those shots, to have the threat of that on your side, that's important. That's something that the Cavs did not necessarily have at points during last season's run. And obviously in the playoffs, you could clearly tell that was an issue. That's why Okoro was benched at certain points. And so being able to have that out there, that's very, very vital for them. But you just want him to knock down more of the shots. That's all I'm saying. Can't shit on him because he did come up clutch. He was plus 17 on the night. I think he had the highest plus minus, at least according to Bleacher Report, if it's updated correctly. He had the highest plus minus on the team at plus 17, as Elliot Clausen says down here. He is the plus minus anomaly. I like that. Yeah, I know that's not necessarily always going to be a good thing either, because his stat line is going to suggest that he played pretty well. Well, his plus minus might suggest he played pretty well. And then you look at his stat line, you look at his field goal percentage, and it looks atrocious. And then vice versa, the other thing can be true as well. He can have a really good statistical performance, and then just the plus minus may not look as good for him. But that could be the case with any number of these guys. But yeah, just the core four was great. Max Strus right along with them had his moments, and then you look to the bench here. Karis LeVert, the former Indiana Pacer, and for those of you who are keeping track here, that's now at least two former Indiana Pacers on this team, and George Niang and Karis LeVert, right? LeVert, very good, very, very good off the bench. 16 points, 16 rebounds, 16 rebounds, Jesus. 6 rebounds, 5 of 6, 6 of 12 from the field. And he did have a boneheaded foul at one point down the stretch in the fourth that left me wondering, like, what the fuck are you doing? But more often than not, he showed up tonight. And so I'm constantly asking myself and wondering to myself, after watching him play 27 minutes tonight, is he going to be a part of closing lineups in the playoffs? I am very, very interested to see, and I know this could be matchup dependent. I am very, very interested to see who is going to be a part of JB Bickerstaff's primary closing unit, right? At least when I say primary, I mean, like, okay, what is he in game one of the postseason, depending upon who the matchup is, who is going to be his final 5-man group out there for the last, I don't know, 6 minutes of a game. Whatever you consider a closing lineup. I'm very, very curious to see what JB decides to do, because LeVert could be a part of that, depending upon how he plays during any given matchup. I thought he was phenomenal tonight. And I think that he has been another Cavalier who has dealt with consistency issues throughout his time here, but he's been more consistent this year than he was last year. And that's for him, that's saying a lot. And I know that the 6th Man of the Year award is all but locked up right now, but he definitely warrants some consideration for that award. And, you look to some of the other pieces. We already talked about Niang, his floor spacing ability, definitely something that's going to come in handy come the playoffs, especially out of the power forward position. And then Isaac Okoro, who has come back recently, right? He had some pretty critical plays down the stretch there, especially on the final couple possessions of the game. Played 25 minutes tonight, just 7 points, but you're not really paying Isaac Okoro. You're not really playing him time out there to score a ton of points. You're putting him out there for his ability to defend. More often than not. The scoring is a plus. It's a bonus. Obviously, you want him to be able to be a threat from the 3-point line, something he hasn't been able to do as much as of late since returning. But, him being a high-level defender out there, that's going to come in handy in certain lineups come the postseason. I want to hear from you guys, though. One of the things that I was a little concerned with tonight, and I knew this was a big-time matchup, right? Obviously, I keep saying that this was like a playoff-esque atmosphere. This is a playoff game. But one of the things I was a little concerned with is the fact that JB only really rolled with an 8-man rotation. And I get it, like, traditionally in the postseason, it's usually 8 to 9-man groups, sometimes even 7, right? We have seen head coaches roll out 7 to 8 players in a postseason. In a series, right? In a game. But I was a little concerned with that. I felt at certain points, hey, maybe you give Marcus Morris a little bit of run. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Tristan Thompson. There were definitely points where I felt like, hey, maybe get these guys a breather. But at the same time, I knew the critical, nature of this specific matchup, considering the seeding implications that were tied to it, right? So I get it why JB probably did it, but I was just a little left wondering, maybe get Jarrett Allen out of there, right? He played 38 minutes tonight. Don played 38, and we know Don is kind of, he's dealing with some injury issues, and I think we kind of talked about that knee after that just terrible possession he had. But I really, really wanted JB to open up the rotation a little bit more than just the 8 he played tonight. But again, I get it. This is playoff basketball, basically. Rotation shortened to around 8, maybe 9 if we're lucky. But it just, for me, it does not give me a good feeling in regards to JB heading into the playoffs. Now, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. We know that based off of what we are seeing and what we have been seeing lately, that JB has already basically got his lineup of guys. You can pencil in the starting five. That is solidified. That is not changing, barring injury, right? And then your bench unit, Karis LeVert is going to get his typical 24 to 28 minutes per game, maybe even 30 some games, depending upon how well he's playing. Then beyond LeVert, things are open for business, right? You have Niang. Obviously, I've referenced his spacing abilities from that power forward position. That is critical, especially without Dean Wade out there right now. Um, so Niang figures to play a big role, especially until we get a little bit of news on Dean. And then Isaac Okoro, right? That eighth man could fluctuate depending upon whatever is needed most in the series. If JB decides to go just 8 deep, I hope that's not the case. Don't shit on me if that happens. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying if it does, I think the eighth man is where obviously you have the most wiggle room. All right. Isaac Okoro may not play 25 plus minutes every single game in the playoffs. And so for me, I want to show that at certain points, I want for JB to realize some of the options that he has at his disposal, right? Marcus Morris, based upon what we have seen from him since he was signed, we know that he can play the 3 and the 4. We know that he can space the floor. We know that he has a mid-range threat. That's something that some of these guys off the bench unit don't necessarily have. And then we know from a defensive standpoint, Marcus Morris is he's a pretty decent defender, right? And so I wonder what JB how he's going to utilize a player like Morris come the playoffs. Sam Merrill, that's a guy he's had whiplash. He's been dealing with whiplash for these past couple of games. When he comes back, hopefully he does. But I'm just really, really curious to see what JB decides to do with those last couple of last couple of rotation spots down in the postseason, because it's going to come down to Okoro, Sam Merrill, and I would say probably Tristan Thompson without having Dean Wade. And I'm spacing out here. I don't know why I'm spacing out. Let's just put it this way. Karis LeVert's going to get run. George Niang is going to get run. Isaac Okoro is probably a lot to get run, but there are a handful of guys that could play and that should play in specific matchups. Imagine the Cavs play the New York Knicks. You're going to want Tristan Thompson out there for a certain amount of minutes just for matchup dependent purposes, especially with Mitchell Robinson out there and some of the physical nature, some of the more physical bodies that they have out there. Isaiah Hardenstein, players like that. You're going to want to have Tristan Thompson suit up in that matchup. That is very much a matchup dependent series. If you're playing Indiana, again, I don't know, what is obviously Sunday is going to determine a lot of the seeding, right? Tonight definitely clinched the top 5 spot for them, but there's still some wiggle room. So I don't know who the Cavs are going to play just yet. It looking less likely that they're going to play some of these other teams, right? I don't think they're going to end up playing Philly. I don't think they're going to end up playing Indiana, but anything is possible, right? Depending upon what happens in regards to some of these other matchups to finish out the season. But in regards to some of the guys that you could see in the postseason, I think it just clearly comes down to matchups. So what you saw tonight, I say all that to say, I know that's such a long-winded response, but what you saw tonight is probably what you're going to see to open the postseason, no matter who the opponent is. We know that Karis is going to get some run. We know that Niang is going to be a heavy factor off the bench. We know that Isaac Okoro is going to be as well. Beyond those three, I just don't know, right? Tristan Thompson could, depending upon whether or not we see the Knicks. Marcus Morris, if George Niang starts to struggle, you probably could see Marcus. Sam Merrill, if he comes back. I don't know. It just JB has a couple of options, and he's going to have to figure out how to best utilize them. But I don't know. I mean, if he does it, we know what the case is going to be. JB's going to be looking for a new job, and I have no problem with that. If JB ends up fucking this up, if they don't win the first round series, hell, if they don't win a second round series, JB could still be gone. I know a lot of people are already out on him. A lot of people want him fired, no matter what the result of this postseason is. I don't know. I mean, just seeing some of the opinions about JB out there, JB could win a championship this year, and people would probably still say, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like we don't believe in you. It wasn't you. It was the players. But that is and that is by no means me saying that JB should be kept no matter what. I'm making a joke at some people's expenses. But we all know what the case is. If the man just underwhelms, like we saw that report come out the other day by Sam Amico, or people who I think he aggregated that. I don't think he actually came out with that article. I think he just you know how these bigger accounts do. You know what happens. But like it's the worst kept secret in the world. If JB struggles in this postseason, if the Cavs struggle in this postseason, they don't go on a run, they don't win a series or two, JB's gone. And I have no problem with that. I just want to see, I want to know what the solution would be. Then I want to know who would be the next guy in line, who they would look to go after. There's a couple options out there, obviously, but we'll get to that if it comes to that point. We will come to that bridge and cross it if we need to. That said, the Cavaliers could earn themselves, if I'm not mistaken, a win against Charlotte will give them home court advantage, something that could be huge. Definitely want to see that be the case. I don't know. Yes, Tune In says JB and Koby on the hot seat. I see when it comes to Koby, I never know truly how to feel about that, because I feel like from a roster construction standpoint, people's issues with Koby is the fact that he didn't make a move these past two deadlines. I think that's the biggest issue that people have with him, right? And while I get that, all the needle movers costed more than the Cavs were willing to be be participants in shelling out assets that they don't necessarily have, in my opinion. And so I got why he stayed put this year. Last year, you can make a case that he absolutely should have made a move, but instead of that, he opted to go the buyout route and brought in Danny Green, and we know how that went. And then this year, they did much the same, right? Their trade deadline or buyout area moves were signing Craig Porter Jr. to a standard contract, converting his contract and giving that to Pete Nance, and then obviously the Marcus Morris signing. Those were the moves that he made around that time instead of pulling the trigger on a trade. And I know that they were working the phones. I know that they were trying to acquire certain players. They had their eyes on Royce O'Neal, who was a lot of people's favorites to be brought in, but some of the offers that were made for some of these guys that would have been surefire needle movers, or guys who would immediately be a threat to unseat somebody in the rotation, costed more than we could really afford. We couldn't outbid any of these offers, right? And I know people are saying, well, we have a lot of different second round picks, and you could have packaged that together with a Niang or a Wade or something like that. But I'm just like, okay, you're probably not beating out still some of the offers that were made to some of these guys who were brought in. The offer that was made, by Phoenix to acquire Royce O'Neal, I just don't think we could have bought that. Could have outbid that type of trade. I just don't see it. But for me, yeah, I say all that to say, I felt like Koby has actually done a pretty damn good job. But at the end of the day, your players and your coach have to actually they have to actually step up, right? JB has to use the players at his disposal the correct way, and the players have to actually step up on the court, right? Just like any other GM or president of basketball operations, I believe that's his title. They're going to have screw ups. They're going to have fuck ups. And as Tunin says on here, only thing I disagree with Koby was for that Kyrie trade. I know that there were definitely a lot of things that people would probably look at Koby for and say, I disagree with your decision making in regards to that. The Kyrie thing is definitely probably at the top of the list. But that was basically his introduction, right? That was his first time actually handling a situation like that. And you know, for what it's worth, it wasn't a complete disaster. You got what Colin Sexton basically out of it, who you then used eventually to in the trade that acquired Donovan Mitchell, along with a couple of other pieces, obviously. But there are definitely some moves that I think people have forgotten about that Kobe's done quite well at. Bringing in Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio was big time in a major way for a short period of time for the Cavs. Swinging the Larry Nance trade that brought Larry Markkinen to Cleveland, that was big time. That 3 7-footer lineup, a lot of opposing teams struggled to try and figure that out for a little while. Getting Rajon Rondo to help shore up things. There's getting Taurean Prince. They're acquiring Jarrett Allen for pennies on the dollar, right? They were definitely moves that he has made during his tenure that have paid off, right? And others that have been head scratchers or throwing darts at the board, acquiring Andre Drummond, you know, a couple of different things. That in addition to the drafting and getting undrafted free agent talent, right? Getting Dean Wade, Lamar Stevens, throw him in there. Craig Porter Jr., getting Emoni Bates as a steal in the second round. There are definitely a lot of different things that you can look to and point to and say, hey, Kobe's done a pretty damn good job. And there are other things, obviously, just like any other GM, that you could say, yeah, Kobe, that probably wasn't. That probably wasn't the thing. And when I'm referencing Drummond, Mamadou, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying you got Drummond for basically nothing. It was John Henson, Brandon Knight, and a second-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. That was the deal to acquire a former all-star center. And you do that every day of the week, right? Especially at that point in time, because I think Drummond was coming off an all-star season, and you really had nothing to lose. The Cavs were in a rebuilding mode, and they were just kind of throwing darts at the board, and you can't blame any GM for that. Yes, a bag of chips. John Henson, Brandon Knight, second round pick. That equates. And sorry to those guys. If by chance, I know you're not listening, but by chance you ever come across this podcast and you hear this episode, I'm not shitting on you guys. I'm just saying, I mean, you make that trade. You would trade yourselves for Andre Drummond back then. I know you would. That said, I am obviously in a much better mood than I was. Then the Cavs could have blown this lead like they did against the Los Angeles Clippers. And I wrote this whole script out for this episode. And one of the things that I forgot to mention was that first half, they scored 70 points. That was only the 8th time this season that they've managed to do that. And the latest was against the Clippers. And so in the back of my head, I just kept thinking to myself, as good as this first half was, as inconsistent as this team has been, I was just kind of waiting. I was waiting, like anticipating for the bottom to fall out. And I know that sucks, right? I want to sound like a downer on a night that is supposed to be good because the Cavs won, right? But I got to be honest, I was waiting for the bottom to fall out and for them to give up that lead. And them niggas did exactly that. That's exactly what happened. And I was bracing myself for it. I was tempted to post the wartime meme that I posted as the clip art for this episode, but thankfully that did not have to happen. But they allowed Indiana to get within 3, right? At one point in that fourth, 97-94, heading into that fourth quarter. And at that point, I just knew we were in for a nail biter as the game would just remain close. It just remained close for a long, long time. And I did not want that to be the case tonight. And obviously, you know what? I can sit here and bitch and complain about the fact that they gave up that lead, but man, what the hell? They won the game. They clinched the spot, a top 5 spot in the East. And with how inconsistent this team has been this year, I'm good, man. I'm okay. I feel confident as ever. I posed this question earlier on X or Twitter, whatever the fuck people call it these days, and I'm going to ask it again. Who would you want to see in the playoffs in that first round? Do you want to see the Magic? Do you want to see New York? Do you want to see Indiana? Do you want to see Philadelphia? In my opinion, I still very much want to play the New York Knicks. I feel like the Cavs, I get why people don't want to play the Knicks. They're a very, very good team. They have an excellent coach who has managed to coach circles around JB in the past. Just last season. and at points during this year in some of their matchups. But in saying that, I feel like they have the most to gain by winning that series. And I get that winning any first round series for them would be phenomenal for not only their confidence, but for the faith, right? For the hope of this fan base that just believes that they're just not a good team, right? But for me, it's still New York. It's always been New York. I want my damn revenge. I want to see them pound those motherfuckers into the ground. I know that's not going to happen, right? I know they're not probably going to end up against New York, but that is exactly what I want to see, because I want to see Jarrett Allen after getting his lunch money taken by Mitchell Robinson. I want to see them get their damn revenge, damn it. That's what I want. That's the selfish part of me. The part of me that says, hey, this is probably the easiest path to them to get first round victory is probably the Indiana Pacers. Right. You can throw the Magic in there too, as Tune In says down here. But man, oh man, I tonight restored the confidence for me. Not a perfect victory by any means, but one that I can look to and say, you know what? When this shit starts to truly count after this last game against Charlotte, I do have confidence that no matter the opponent, the Cavaliers can put up a fight and win the game. Tony Pesta, thanks for dropping by, Tony. Tony says Jarrett demolishing Indiana in a series would be nice. I mean, we saw him do the shit tonight, and we know he's very capable. And an aggressive Jarrett Allen, similar to Evan Mobley, an aggressive Jarrett Allen is a Jarrett Allen that I want to see out there. A Jarrett Allen that's taking mid-range floaters and mid-range pull-ups, doing some of the things that he's done out there on the offensive glass, some of the putbacks, DHO work with Mack, Strus and company. Phenomenal. I definitely feel like the Pacers had no real answer for him out there, which really, honestly, you could probably throw Evan Mobley in there too. There were points tonight where Indiana just had no answer for Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley at the rim. And so I would like to see that, admittedly, but still, selfishly, I want to see them play New York. I will not keep you guys on here all night, though. Thank you for dropping in. Hopefully, we have just as much good to talk about against the Charlotte Hornets as the Cavs close out the season. It's just been a crazy season, man. It truly has been a tale of multiple seasons within one. This team has dealt with so much shit. And look, I know that this team, people have made numerous excuses for them. I know people have accused me of making excuses for this team and its players and its coach. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just not going to say shit anymore just because people are like, oh, that's an excuse, because people don't know the difference between explanations and excuses often. But I'll tell you this, I still very much believe in this team, and tonight definitely helped that, especially for Darius Garland in particular. And hopefully he can continue to use performances like this as a springboard to potential greatness in the playoffs, because we're going to need him. We are going to need him. Donovan Mitchell is not at 100%. Clearly, he's still dealing with a couple of things. He looked a lot better tonight. He's been playing better as of late, but clearly I still see some of the effects of that knee, right? And I just want Darius Garland to play like the star that we all know he can be. And I think that is very much possible from him. And so no matter the opponent come the postseason, whether it's the Knicks, whether it's Indiana, whether it's Orlando, I definitely feel like Darius Garland is going to be a much needed presence out of that backcourt. And that's about all I can say. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you'd like to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, send a review to It's Cavalier53 at gmail.com. And I will send you an invite. If you are watching or listening or streaming the podcast for the first time, consider hitting that like button, subscribe. You just never know what you might find on the channel. And one of the things, as we close out here, one of the things I've been kind of toying around with is doing maybe a weekly live stream where I play just a random person, a random person in 2K, and, maybe putting up video. I might live stream it, or I might just put up a video of it after the fact. But I see some of my favorite content creators out there doing that, and I think it would be a fun idea. And by no means am I good at 2K, right? I'll probably get my ass kicked more often than not, but I think it would be a fun little thing. And so if you'd like to do that, if you'd be interested in being an opponent of mine in regards to that, hit me up, right? Hit me up on Twitter, hit me up here on YouTube. But I would very much be interested in doing that. I think that is something I'm going to start doing on a weekly basis. It's probably going to be on Fridays, maybe a Saturday thing. But um, let me know. Let me know if you guys would be interested in doing that. That said, go Cavs and have a good night.